We got to get to these earnings results. There were some really big companies, Matt. You already detailed some of the, just the broad thing about how so many companies like Microsoft, Netflix, how they've responded post their earnings now that they've set up into technical patterns. But what about these ones that reported last night? Some of the major names, Apple Computer, Facebook, Tesla.
Well,
What did you learn from them?
I'm interested in Apple from a technical perspective, and I do want to get Tyler's take on it because typically we don't see an Apple earnings report where we don't see a lot of movement. And Apple's down a percent on the day, but that's nothing, right? That's nothing. I'm really interested because Apple riding that 9 EMA today is I think, and I want to get Tyler's take on this after I give the numbers because I think it could be an opportunity for us. But I'm looking at Apple's numbers, and quite frankly, everybody was anticipating that $100 billion mark for Apple to achieve it for the first time in its history. And Apple said, you know what, guys, we'll hit that for you. We're going to do one. We're going to do a little bit better than that, though. They came in at a whopping $111.44 billion in the quarter. And I just think we should all take a moment to realize, I know we talk in terms of trillions from an economic perspective, and we talk in terms of trillions from a stimulus perspective, and numbers are just all fake and monopoly to us in America in 2021. I get that, but it's still a whopping $111 billion on a discretionary company that is not Walmart. And that is an amazing accomplishment for Apple, and you got to give them a lot of credit. And Steve Jobs built an empire and he built that brand awareness, but Tim Cook, the marketing genius that is Tim Cook, has turned Apple into something that I don't even think Steve Jobs would ever see this type of growth potential. And you just got to give Tim Cook, obviously the CEO of Apple, a heck of a lot of credit. Steve Jobs, God bless his soul, you got to give him a heck of a lot of credit. But it's a crowning achievement for Apple. And so, congratulations, well deserved there. The expectation was 103.28 billion. So a good, healthy profit. Now, what led to that beat, and EPS numbers were really good as well, $1.68 versus $1.61, or excuse me, $1.41. So good, healthy beat on EPS numbers as well. So revenue, EPS numbers, both really, really good for Apple. But when you're looking at Apple and you're looking at all these different subcategories of Apple, right? You got iPhone sales and iPad sales, and you have Mac sales, and you have services, and you have subscription, and you have all these different avenues. Guys, there wasn't not one area of Apple's earnings reports that did not have double-digit revenue growth. Not one area. Most of them were in the 17, 18% growth area. So for example, when you're looking at, iPhone sales, they came in at 65.6 billion, 60 billion was the expectation. Real healthy beat in iPhone sales. Now, we were anticipating that with iPhone sales with Apple. They did just release the latest edition of the iPhone, 5G compatible. We knew the craze was going to happen, and the craze did happen there. But when you're looking at Mac sales, when you're looking at service sales, when you're looking at all these different areas of Apple, you're talking about a company that was beyond impressive, in my opinion, yesterday. And, an impressive 24% growth in their subscription area. And we talked a little bit about that in relationship to Apple yesterday, how important that subscription services that Apple has been, that is the growth area of Apple. The importance it is for the growth area of Apple is understated. That came in at 24% at 15.76 billion. And those subscriptions, we're talking anytime you go to the App Store, anytime you go download something, we're talking everything from iTunes and the Apple Store and so on and so forth. That came in at $15 billion. The only flaw I saw in Apple's report was out of their Mac sales, and that revenue, they did hit double-digit growth there, but the revenue came in at 8.68 billion versus the expectation of 869 billion. So they did miss by 0.01 billion on Mac sales, but outside of that, I think we can forgive Apple. Outside of that, guys, and this is also a company that sent over $30 billion back to the investors in the quarter, guys, both through a massive stock buyback program, dividend. There's nothing but golf clap and congratulations for Tim Cook, Apple, and everything they did in the quarter. Obviously, they had a robust quarter. Can they repeat it? That's the question.
Mhm.
A little bit of a muted market response here. And I'm a little bit surprised by that. Tyler, do you see anything on this chart that is actionable here?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you could make the case that you've got a little 3-bar pullback to the 9 EMA. I think it's not my favorite setup. I mean, I think you have one of two choices. If you're anxious to get in, I don't know, you use maybe a trigger of today's high, or you wait for the ultimate breakout over 145. Maybe this is like a Microsoft two-step where you get an initial pause or sell on the earnings, but then once that abates, the next day it pops. Even if this does pull back further, I think in light of the strength in tech, in light of the powerful fundamentals here, it's obviously on your radar for a buy. The question is how picky are you in waiting for a perfect setup, or you want to just take a slight pullback to the 9 EMA and go with that?
Give me a longer term chart if you can. I mean, obviously, I agree with that in the short term, just 1 day analysis. But based on what Matt's talking about themes and everything, I mean, the golf clap I think is a good visual and a way to say it. Great job, Apple. Amazing. You guys are the best. You're the leaders in selling these kind of products to consumers, and you continue to do it. 111 billion, double-digit growth in those different areas, Matt, that you described. I think you look at the long term chart and you're like, okay, here we are at the all-time high. We're hesitating a little bit, but we're holding. We're not selling. There's relative strength in the market. You still got to be a bull in Apple. You still got to be looking for opportunities. Wherever those opportunities develop in the short term, that's going to be based on technical preference on that daily chart. Might need a little time for that to kind of work its way through, even consolidate, then a breakout or a deeper retracement. I don't know, but you got to have Apple on a bullish watch list.
We can trade Apple all day long. Apple should be parked in a retirement account.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 1A, 1B. The last 2 days,
Yeah,
Microsoft, Apple.
Retirement.
Yeah, Apple.
Apple should be held for the next 50 years.
Well, and it's the largest holding in the S&P 500. I mean, anybody who's got a diversified portfolio owns Apple as probably their largest holding by default.
Yeah. Including Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
And here's the point. Even though we're not seeing great appreciation here, there is nothing in these numbers that would shake off any investor. In fact, the investors are celebrating. The investors are golf clapping. The investors are saying, go Tim Cook. We don't care about what's happening in GameStop. We don't care about what's happening anywhere else. You just continue to do your job, and we're going to continue to give you our money.